We're cruising along to the Rolling Stones today. So this one's a little interesting story behind this. My original, well, let me back up for a second. So the steering system on the 6 cylinders is it's like an enigma. The tie rod ends are the only thing that I haven't replaced is because they're not worn out. And I'm probably just going to put some Zerk fittings in them because they are stupid expensive. It's just, I think it's just because they're not all that common. That's got to be what it is. They're available, but literally a tie rod end's like $150. I mean, it's incredible. So, but I did replace the idler arm, which is a little less expensive. I don't remember exactly how much this was because I bought it quite a while ago, and I'll explain why. The bushing for the idler arm was shot on mine. It was all rotted out, which there was a lot of play in the steering. And so I did find at NPD, I did find a new bushing for it. So I ordered a new bushing and I pressed the old one out and I pressed a new one in, because I've got the stuff to do that. No big deal, right? Well, I've noticed the steering is starting to get more slop in it again. Whatever rubber they used for the bushing and the one from NPD it's just so soft now, and it's loosening up now that I've driven it probably 1,000 miles with it. It's as bad as the old one was. It's not rotted out, but it's just really soft. So I had already ordered this up when I ordered this, and it was back ordered. That's the story behind this. And then I eventually found the bushing. I said, well, I'll just keep the new idler arm because this is, eventually this part of the idler arm will need to be replaced because it will wear out. This is just it's just a bearing that's in there, a bush. It's probably a bushing inside, but, I figured, well, I'll hold it for a rainy day. So I kept it. Well, now that it's sloppy as all hell, and I'll show you once we get underneath and we take a look at it, I'm going to go ahead and put this one in. And I'm looking at the design differences, and I'll show you when we get under there, but there is a lot more rubber underneath the one that's on there right now, and that's where all the flex is coming from. So I'll flex it for you and everything. I'll show you exactly what's going on, but what it's going to be is or what I'm trying to show you guys is don't go and buy a new bushing from NPD for $25 or whatever it was, because it's a waste of money. It's totally got a whole bunch of slop in it now. It's no good. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to change it out, put this Scott Drake one in there. Let's get right in on that. Let's see, made in USA and for 6-cylinder. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and install this. So let's take a gander at what we got here. Idler arm bushing, which I've replaced. The idler arm itself, it's probably like a plain bearing in here or something, is in good shape. None of that was loose when I took it apart, so I literally just changed the bushing. And what I'm pretty certain of here is that the durometer of the rubber they used is far too soft in this replacement, and that is causing excessive play. It wasn't that soft when I put it in, but it sure softened up after I've driven it a little bit. So let's see if we can wiggle it around a little bit here. I might need 2 hands, so I might have to put you on a tripod. But let's see if I can. You're not going to be able to tell because the camera's moving. Let me grab a tripod. All right, so this is probably about the best angle that I can get of it, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but you got to remember when this thing is under a bunch of load and you're steering, you're taking up all this slack with the steering wheel. And the reason I noticed that something was wrong is cruising down the highway, it was kind of wandering a little bit, and I'd have to correct back and forth, and I felt it getting soft. So this is what's happening. And try and pay attention here and here, and look at how this moves up and down, and this moves up and down right here. Mind you, I'm not turning the other wheels on the ground right now. I am not turning the wheels at all. This is all play in the idler arm right here. The other wheel is not turning at all. You see the other wheel's on the ground. Look at how much this thing is moving. So anyways, we're going to put that Scott Drake idler arm in here. And that one comes with a new shaft. So we're going to go ahead and unbolt it up here. This shouldn't be too hard. You know, this is probably a 1, maybe 2 F-bomb job, so not too bad. It's probably a 0 on the knuckle buster scale, but, you know, if you're not careful, that could shoot up to a 2. So we'll go ahead and get started with that. All right. So I went ahead already and I pulled, and you can't see it because of the angle, but I went ahead and I pulled the castle nut off, you know, the cotter key, the castle nut. Took that off first. The new one came with all new hardware too, by the way. It didn't come with these bolts that are up here. It didn't come with new hardware for that. I'm just going to reuse the old stuff. You know, it's a good idea to replace it, especially since this has got lock bolts, but of course I'm going to reuse them because that's how we roll. So you're going to want to get your pickle fork, and you're going to want to get that in there, and then of course you're going to want to get your BFH, your biggest, finest hammer. And this one, I expect it to come apart because I already had it apart. So I don't expect it to give me much trouble. Sometimes what you got to do with these is you got to heat the receiving end of it. Sometimes these tapers just don't like to pop apart, so you got to heat the iron up, you know, or steel or whatever it is. I think it's cast steel. You got to heat that up sometime to get these apart. But I'm hoping that this one's just going to want to come right apart because I don't recall it giving me a whole lot of trouble before, and now it's already been apart once. So let's see. Yeah, as I suspected, it just popped right off. So that's good. So now we're free there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this nut right here, and I don't think I brought the right size for that, so I'm going to go grab that, and we'll pull this off of here and just simply drop the idler arm straight down. It's that easy. Alright, so I pulled the cotter key out already. This is 7/8. By the way, if I didn't mention this before, you know, a lot of folks do follow my videos, but for the ones that don't, happen to stumble across this is a 6-cylinder, and the 6 cylinders are different. They have different idler arm, they got different tie rod ends, they're just completely different. So this should be similar, if not the same. It's the same process. An idler arm's an idler arm. It's not really any different, but you know, just as a footnote, because it is different hardware. And that's it. She comes right out. So anyways, the biggest thing I noted with this guy is just how much rubber there is here versus the other one. It looks like it's a harder durometer, first of all, and there's a lot less rubber, so it won't flex near as much. So went ahead and did that. The Scott Drake one is different, so you can't use the same spindle that's on here, the same shaft. You just replace it all. Replace all of it. So let me see. These are going to be, those look like 3/8 bolts to me, so those are going to be 9/16. Wipe the grease off of here so I don't get it all over me. And I went ahead and already put penetrating oil on the nuts on the other side. Another tip too, to get more light down here, just leave the hood open. I'm outside. I like working outside. I get the sun. Yeah, I went ahead and soaked those in penetrating oil, and we'll bust them loose with probably just a ratchet, and I'll probably get my electric ratchet just to speed things up. All right, so if you're a lonely guy, I can't help you with that. But if you're an alone guy, I can help you with that. Now, in this case, I think I can get both of them, but say you couldn't. A lot of times I'll take a box wrench, and a lot of guys know this trick, but I'll take a box wrench and I'll let it wedge itself up against the body somewhere. So like in this case, it's probably going to want to wedge right here. So if I couldn't, for whatever reason, couldn't get my hand in here, and I might even want to flip it over, you can let the box wrench wedge itself up against the body, you know. Maybe you could do it like this, or like this. Let's see. I'm probably lying to you guys now. A lot of times you can get them to wedge up against the body somewhere, though. In this case, it might even do it over here somewhere. Yeah, maybe right over here. Yeah. So I've got it wedged up against the body here. And so now I can back the, of course now it's almost all the way out, but then you can get to it. Now in this case, both hands are up in there. It's not a big deal, but that'll save you a lot sometimes. Just let the wrench wedge into something, because a lot of us do this work on our own. We don't have anybody to help us, and so those little tricks help. So, like I said, these are locking nuts on the other side, so they're going to fight you the whole way. So to speed that up, of course, this one feels pretty tight, and it doesn't feel like I can get my electric ratchet in there, but if I can get my electric ratchet in there, I want to, because it's just going to save you so much work. Your arms get tired and everything. So let's see if we can't hit it with the electric. And that saves so much work. There's the nut. There's the bolt. And inspect the hardware if you're going to reuse it. These are fine thread bolts. They're kind of specific length. They're not special or anything. These are just grade 8. Actually, these might be grade 5. These are grade 5. Let me see. Is it 6 marks? 6 marks is 8? See, now I'm forgetting. 3 marks would be 5. These are 5 marks. I thought 6 marks was 8. So I have to look that up and see, because I don't remember. 5 marks is weird. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at the head of the bolt. Got 5 marks on it. That doesn't, I think grade 8 is 6. 3 is 5. So I have to look it up. Gotta look that one up because I don't remember. I'm usually pretty good with that. But anyways, maybe they are special. So what am I doing here? I don't even know what I'm doing. I gotta put the wrench on this side. These electric ratchets don't do well when stuff is really tight, so use your manual ratchet to get in there and bust it loose. Let's see if we can't let this wedge itself in here maybe. So see how I got the, well, you can't really, so you can kind of see it. See how the wrench is wedged up in here? Just, it makes it a lot easier if you're working by yourself. So, and that penetrating oil also helps. So I got that pretty loose now. Let's see if the electric ratchet will do the job for us. And if I can even get it up in here. This is very tight. It's next to the exhaust and stuff. It does seem like I can get it in there. Doesn't quite want to. These electric ratchets, or air ratchets and electric ratchets, they don't have a whole lot of torque. They're not an impact, So, and there's paint and rust, and even with the penetrating oil, there, maybe feeling like it's loosening enough. Nope. Yeah, this one's just fighting me. I might as well put the regular ratchet back on it. See, this is stubbornness right here. I don't want to grab the other ratchet. And I know that there's guys that know what I'm talking about right now. There are plenty of guys that do exactly what it is I'm doing. Come on. There we go. Yep, yeah, that was totally worth that. Not. All right. There's our nut. And there's the old shaft. All right, so not hard. So far our score is 0 F-bombs and 0 busted knuckles. So we're doing pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and get the Scott Drake one, and we'll get it lined up here. Also, I will mention I checked because it does look different. I checked the Scott Drake one against this. The length is the same. It's got a round shaft though instead of flat. So I just want to be sure. This will throw your alignment off. Most likely will throw the alignment off. I need to get it realigned anyways because the suspension is settling. So, you know, it doesn't really bother me, but it will probably change the alignment. So let's get the new one in here. So I did find the answer, and I should have assumed this, but the answer is grade 7. I don't know that I've ever seen a grade 7 bolt before. And it was not an easy answer to find. I actually had to do a little bit of digging. So that's interesting. Grade 7 bolts. I wonder why grade 7. Maybe it was more common back in '66. That's very possible. I mean, you just don't see them. You see grade 5 and grade 8 now, and then there's structural bolts, and then there's metric 8.8, 10.9, so on and so forth. Those are all common fasteners, properly called fasteners, by the way. So anyways, that's interesting. So I'm glad I didn't try and replace them because I probably could have used grade 8 in its place, but whatever. So I went ahead and cleaned them up with a wire brush, and we've got the new Scott Drake stuff here. We'll just get this stuff installed. Not hard so far. So I think probably the easiest way to do this is probably just pop a bolt in here since I'm working blind from that side. And I guess I should check to see if this, yeah, that will definitely line up. Put the first one in, the second one in, just to make it easy. Or not. That is because I got it in the wrong holes. There we go. There it is. Got them. All right. Promptly get our nuts on there before it falls off. Okay. Now the rest of it's just kind of painful getting this. Hopefully I can get my electric ratchet to zip them down so I don't have to do a whole bunch of work. I don't usually get that lucky. But we'll see. And then these, they're 3/8 fine bolts. I forget what a 3/8 fine can go to. 40 foot-pounds, something like that. I don't know. I'm not going to check it. We are going German torque spec on this one. So, anyways, this is just going to make a bunch of noise. We'll be back with it once it's tightened up. Okay, so now here's where there's probably some differences of opinion. This is kind of how I do these, and I've installed more idler arms on more crap than you could ever imagine. Fleet maintenance, by the way, when you're doing fleet maintenance on a bunch of crappy vehicles and that are exposed to a very crappy environment, they go through suspension parts like you wouldn't believe. So anyways, I usually put, I'll back up for a second. There is a steel sleeve inside of these, and every one of these I've ever looked at is the same. The steel sleeve is what it's riding on. It's what that shaft is riding on. It doesn't twist the rubber in here or anything like that. By the way, this is much harder durometer rubber. It's almost as hard as polyurethane, but I don't think it's polyurethane. So this is much more appropriate. I always put a little bit of grease in here. And then the way that this should work, although the fact that they give you a lock nut might suggest otherwise, the way that this should work, sorry, I'll back up for a second. The way that you would think that this would work is that you would want to take the nut all the way down and go to this, it's not a crush sleeve, but this, it's like a spacer, right? It's a solid steel piece. You don't want to crush that all the way down. So So you would take your lock nut, that's why it's a lock nut. I'm trying to show everything here. Your washer and your lock nut, and you just want to get it snug. You don't want it, you want this still to ride in there because it's pretty much the bearing for it. This rubber doesn't turn in there. So make sure that we got this right about where it needs to be. It goes obviously face up like this. And we're just gonna, oh, I forgot. I forget why I was telling you about that. Because that's a bearing surface, we want to put some grease in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some grease on there because it's got a slide on there. I'm just using regular old Molly grease. Molly grease is fine. If anything, it'll keep it from rusting underneath. So just put a little bit of Molly on there. And take our washer and our nut. And I wonder if this is the same size. It looks like it's probably about 7/8. All right, and now we've hit the locker on it. We're just going to take this up to where there's no slack in it anymore. We don't want to crank it down. If we crank it down, it's not going to turn. And where I was talking about the differences of opinion earlier was some people don't put grease on them. I like to put grease on them. All right, it's starting to get tight there, so we don't want to go too far. But we got to make sure we get plenty of bite. I'm feeling like that needs to go a little bit further. Yeah, it does. What you don't want to do is get all the way up against that steel sleeve. All right, I'm up against the steel sleeve now, so I want to back it off just a little bit. And that's it. So now it's solid. And then we've got our brand new nut. Brand new Castle nut. This is pretty nice. It came with everything. Scott Drake tends to be pretty decent stuff, and the hardware is the same size, by the way. The nut sizes are all the same. With these, it's just about as, with these, it's all about how tight you can get it. Get it tight and get the cotter key in there. That's all. Not very difficult at all. You just want this wedged in there really well, and I can feel like it's going to want to stop at this next hole. This is where it gets hard. It's like, do you go for the next hole or not? I think I can go for the next hole. Yep, that's it. That's it right there. Okay. And then we just put our cotter key in. Pretty painless. So let me go ahead and get that bent up, and that'll be done. Alright, so I did make one mistake. And I always tell you guys I don't edit out my mistakes, because it's just as easily not. Told you that I did something wrong. I got to looking at this, and everything that I told you about this this sleeve that's in here was wrong. This does need to be tight. And I did not like the way the lock nut was. The lock nut is not very tight. And so what I'm assuming is happening, I cranked this down because you do not want this coming loose on you. If that comes loose on you, you're going to be in a world of pain. So I got to looking at it, and I just didn't like it. Now, I've gone ahead and I tightened it down, and it's still sliding in there. So, it seems fine. What has to be happening is the sleeve is, because I'm up against a steel sleeve in here now, that sleeve is up against the lip up here, and it's up against the washer here, and I guess it just slides in there. But I don't know, I've worked on other ones of these before, and the lock nuts are usually really tight. And so I don't know. Anyways, I think I made a mistake there. So anyways, I went ahead and I tightened it down. Now you can see there is far less movement in this thing now. All that compliance that was over here is gone. All gone. So went ahead and I shot some grease. That's nice with these new ones too. They already have a Zerk fitting in them. The other thing I was going to do, and I don't think I'm going to do it in this video though, is the tie rod ends. I was going to drill and tap these for Zerk fittings. Maybe I'll do this one because I can get to it. Maybe I could do these since I got this wheel off. I can do these real quick, but that's real easy. You just punch a hole into them and take a tap to it real quick, and you can put a Zerk fitting in there, no problem. So I don't know. Maybe we'll tack that on to the end of this. So we got the first one installed there. Super easy. It's a little hard to get to, so I didn't drill it quite on center, but it really doesn't matter. So you drill it out, you know, get the metal shavings out of it as best as you can when you do that. I'm sure it would be better to do these on the bench, but I'm not taking this thing apart. It's quarter 28, so you drill it with a number 2 drill and then tap it quarter 28. And for these fittings anyways, it's a pretty typical thread for these. I just shot some grease into it, and so now they've been refreshed. They're still there's no play in these, so they'll last a while without having to replace them. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one since it was not hard. I'm a little concerned about here. I might have to get my air drill out. The sun, of course, is in the perfect place today. I have to get my air drill out and come up underneath with that because there's not a lot of room here that I'd jack it up higher in the air. I'll find a way to get to it though, but I just hit it with a pin punch, number 2 drill, tap it, and that's it. Super easy. Yeah, so far so good. We get the driver's side one drilled out. This, I had to get the wheel in just the right place to be able to get the drill in here. So then, you know, this isn't hypercritical how you do this, but because, you know, these are not load-bearing threads or anything, you just got to get it threaded. Quarter 28, like I said. Alright, I can feel it, it's punched through. I found there's really not a whole lot I can do about the little bit of metal shavings that gets in here. I'm not all that concerned about it though. When I drilled it, I cleaned it out, but when you tap it, it's just there's really not a whole lot you can do with these smaller pieces. So I found they weren't dry either, which is a good thing. There's definitely grease came out on each one when I drilled it. So you just take your Zerk fitting and it should just thread right in there. All right. I forgot my little wrench, but it's, you know, just 5/16 or 5/16 wrench of any kind will work. These do not need to be super tight, you know, just snug them up. So I only got one more to do, and that's the outer tie rod end on the driver's side. Well, on the driver's side, we're getting really lazy. We're just got it jacked up, leaving the wheel on it. We don't even have to take the wheel off. So, you know, maybe you can learn something from this. You know, it's really not, you could do this without having to pull the wheels off or anything. You just jack it up, get a little space. So I already peened this one. Again, I'll take my number 2 drill and drill it and tap it, and this will complete it. Now, when I fill these too, I did want to make a note of this. The boots are older, so, you know, don't fill it up and then blow the boots, because then you will have a problem. These boots get cracked, then the grease just comes out of them. They get water in them, and that's it. The tie rods, they'll EOL real quick. So, you know, just keep an eye on it. So fill it up a little bit, but don't fill it up where it splits, because this old rubber is kind of hard. Now, let's just take a look at this wonderful shit. Look at the threads on this thing. They look pretty normal on this side, and then it, like, rolled in the die. Made in China, you know? Crappy quality control. I mean, it's just a Zerk fitting, but still, that's really annoying. You know, and I got a whole bunch of them, right? So it's not that big of a deal, but look at this shit. All right, so yeah, the alignment on this thing is completely jacked because that bushing isn't soft anymore. It's pushing the tie rod that direction, which gave it just an absolute massive amount of toe in because the tie rods are more straight or were. So just to get it driving, I drove it down the driveway and I could tell that it wasn't right. Just to get it going, I took one turn out of each side to suck the tie rods back in to give it a little bit to get the toe more straight. The toe on this should be right around zero. So yeah, I got to get it over to the alignment shop tomorrow morning because it's drivable now, but I can hear the driver's side wheel is scrubbing as I'm driving because it's not right. Obviously, I can't do this without an alignment rack. So she's going to go back into the alignment shop tomorrow, but I knew that was going to be the case. So anyways, everything else feels all right though. The slop is gone, so I think we're pretty good with this one. We'll go ahead and wrap it up.